There are moments in history when a single idea threatens the foundations of civilization, not because it's false, but because it's true. In 2013, a man walked onto a small red stage in London and calmly declared that reality itself is conscious. That statement alone was enough to shatter the fragile illusion upon which modern science stands. His name was Rupert Sheldrake, a Cambridge biologist with credentials so impeccable that even his critics couldn't dismiss him as a crank. Yet within days, his talk vanished, censored, buried beneath the digital sands of the internet. Why? Because he dared to say what many scientists secretly suspect, that the universe is alive, aware, and intelligent, and that consciousness is not a byproduct of matter, but its architect. When you hear those words, something stirs within you. You've always known it, haven't you? That strange sense that life is not random, that there's an intelligence humming behind every atom, guiding each unfolding moment. But you've been told not to trust that knowing. You've been told to worship equations and silence intuition. You've been taught to believe in dead matter spinning through a purposeless void. Sheldrake broke that spell. He stood before the crowd and described experiments that reveal a universe with memory. He spoke of morphic resonance, the idea that nature learns. That once something happens, it becomes easier for it to happen again. Like water carving a groove through stone, every act of creation deepens the path for future creation. Crystals form faster after their first appearance. Animals learn tasks more easily once others of their species have learned them. Knowledge doesn't die with individuals. It echoes through fields that link all living things. If that is true, then your mind is not isolated in your skull. Every thought you have ripples through the ocean of consciousness, shaping the field we all share. The implications are staggering. It means that every new discovery, every invention, every healing, every act of love leaves an imprint on the very fabric of reality, making it easier for the next person to do the same. Humanity, in this sense, is not a collection of isolated brains, but a networked species evolving through shared memory. But the guardians of orthodoxy could not allow this. Because if consciousness is fundamental, then materialism, the ruling religion of modern science, collapses overnight. You see, materialism isn't just a worldview. It's a structure of power. It says that only matter is real, that everything else, thought, intention, awareness, is illusion. And if that's true, then meaning, purpose, and spirit have no place in the laboratory or in life. Under that dogma, you are a machine. Your love is chemistry. Your dreams are noise. Your mind is an accident. Sheldrake stood on that red stage and quietly dismantled this illusion. He listed 10 assumptions that modern science takes as unquestionable truths: that nature is mechanical, that matter is unconscious, that laws are fixed, that memory lives only in brains. But what if these aren't truths at all? What if they're habits? Cosmic habits learned and repeated until even scientists forgot they could change. He asked a question that pierced the heart of physics itself. If the universe evolves, why would its laws not evolve with it? Stars are born, galaxies collide, atoms decay, species appear and vanish. Everything changes. So why would the laws that govern all this movement remain frozen since the beginning of time? The answer, of course, is that they wouldn't. The universe learns. The cosmos remembers. It refines its patterns through experience. Reality is not governed by eternal commandments. It is guided by memory, by morphic resonance. And yet, the moment he said this, the crowd of silent authorities stirred. You could feel the discomfort ripple across the hall. A sacred taboo had been broken. To suggest that nature has memory, that matter might be conscious, is to pull the rug from under the modern priesthood. Because the moment you admit that science itself has been worshiping a corpse, the corpse of a worldview that died the moment quantum physics was born. For centuries, we have been told that consciousness emerges from complexity, that once matter becomes intricate enough, awareness mysteriously appears. But no one has ever explained how. How can dead matter wake up? How can neurons firing in darkness create the experience of light? This is the hard problem that no neuroscientist can solve. And perhaps they never will, because they've been asking the wrong question. Consciousness does not come from matter. Matter comes from consciousness. If that seems radical, it's because we've been hypnotized into believing the opposite. We've been told that thinking differently is heresy, that to speak of intelligence in nature is to invite ridicule. But the universe doesn't care what we believe. It keeps revealing itself to those who dare to look. Consider this. Between 1928 and 1945, scientists all over the world measured a mysterious phenomenon. The speed of light was slowing down. The data was consistent across continents. For 17 years, the constant that defines all physical constants was shifting. Then, as mysteriously as it began, it stopped. The measurements returned to normal. The official explanation? Intellectual phase locking. In other words, the scientists unconsciously agreed to make the numbers match expectations. Think about that. When faced with evidence that reality itself might be changing, the scientific establishment decided that minds, not light, were the problem. And in 1972, to eliminate the embarrassment once and for all, they redefined the meter so that any change in the speed of light would become undetectable by definition. The constant became a decree, not a measurement. It was not the universe that was fixed that day. It was science itself. This is not science. This is dogma. The same impulse that once condemned Galileo for looking through a telescope. The same fear that made priests burn books now wears a lab coat and calls itself rational. But the deeper you look, the more cracks you find in the machine. The gravitational constant fluctuates. The fine structure constant drifts. The charge of the electron shows long-term variation. If we were honest, we'd admit what the data is telling us, that constants are not constant, that the universe breathes, that the cosmos itself is alive. What if gravity, electromagnetism, and light are not fixed laws, but habits? What if the universe, like a musician, learns through repetition until harmony emerges? In that case, the so-called fine-tuning of the cosmos would not be the result of a miraculous coincidence. It would be the outcome of a long cosmic apprenticeship, the universe learning to be what it is. Imagine that, a universe that learns, a universe that remembers, a universe that dreams through us. That is what terrified the institutions. Because if the universe is alive, then so are you, infinitely more than biology suggests. And a living universe does not obey masters, it cooperates. It evolves through consciousness itself. This changes everything we think we know, not just about science, but about who we are. Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance bridges ancient wisdom and modern physics. It explains why species evolve in bursts, why cultures repeat patterns, why habits form in minds and in matter alike. When a new pattern is established, the field strengthens. When an action is repeated, it becomes easier for others to repeat it. The universe remembers every step. So the reason a child today can intuitively use a smartphone or learn a language faster than their ancestors may not be mere adaptation, it may be resonance. The field of humanity is evolving through collective learning. Each of us is both transmitter and receiver, radiating patterns into the morphic field, shaping the probability of the future. But this view terrifies those who worship the machine, because in a living universe, consciousness is not a glitch, it's the main event. And if consciousness shapes matter, then intention matters, belief matters, love matters. Everything you think, feel, and imagine echoes through creation. Every prayer, every thought of despair or hope modifies the great field we all inhabit. This is the forgotten power of the human mind. And this is why they banned him. When they silenced Rupert Sheldrake, they weren't just censoring a scientist. They were suppressing an evolutionary step in human understanding. Because if consciousness is the foundation of the universe, then every human being holds within them the creative power of the cosmos itself. That is, the secret modern institutions cannot afford to admit. A system built on control cannot coexist with beings who realize that reality responds to their awareness. The economic, political, and scientific hierarchies depend on the illusion that you are powerless, a machine among machines, replaceable, predictable, measurable. But a conscious universe has no place for slaves. It only knows co-creators. When you recognize that your thoughts ripple outward into the field, every word becomes a spell, every belief an act of architecture. You're not merely reacting to the world, you're building it from the inside. That's why ancient mystics called words sacred, and why prayers, mantras, and rituals hold power across millennia. They understood what physics is only beginning to rediscover, that intention organizes energy. This is the meaning behind the experiments showing that newly synthesized crystals learn to form faster after their first creation. Nature remembers. The first attempt carves a groove in reality. Each repetition deepens it. The universe practices itself into mastery, like a musician rehearsing scales until beauty becomes effortless. What we call the laws of nature may simply be the habits of God. Imagine this memory extending into everything. Every time you fall in love, you make it easier for others to do the same. Every act of forgiveness strengthens that pattern in the collective field. Every discovery, every insight, every compassionate gesture becomes a contribution to the evolving intelligence of the cosmos. You are teaching the universe how to be more itself. But to accept this, science would have to surrender its oldest idol, certainty. It would have to admit that even its constants are alive. That gravity may pulse with the rhythm of galaxies. That the speed of light may fluctuate like breath. That the equations we worship are not commandments carved in stone, but snapshots of an infinite improvisation. This idea terrifies the rational mind because it dethrones the intellect from its illusion of control. A living universe cannot be mastered, it can only be participated in. That participation requires humility, the willingness to listen to what reality is saying, instead of forcing it to repeat what we already believe. When Sheldrake spoke of morphic resonance, he wasn't inventing mysticism. He was describing empirically what mystics have known through experience, that everything is connected through invisible resonance fields. Ancient temples were built on this principle. Rituals were repeated in the same places not out of superstition, but to strengthen the field they generated. The more a mantra was spoken, the more tangible its energy became. The more a sacred site was visited, the stronger its atmosphere grew. Each repetition was a vote in the collective memory of the world. Even modern experiments hint at this continuity. Rats trained to escape a water maze in one laboratory mysteriously make it easier for rats in another continent to solve the same maze faster. Molecules crystallize more easily after their first formation. Languages, technologies, and behaviors spread through society not just by imitation, but by resonance. Culture itself is morphic. We've been taught to call this coincidence, because coincidence is the word we use when the pattern is too large for our current paradigm. But the pattern is there, waiting to be seen, and it extends far beyond biology. Sheldrake's research revealed something far more personal, that consciousness is not trapped inside the skull. Vision itself, he proposed, is a projection. When you look at a tree, your mind literally extends to where the tree is. You are not seeing a copy of the world inside your head. You are touching the world with your awareness. The act of perception is an act of communion. Have you ever felt someone staring at you from behind, only to turn and meet their gaze? That instinct is not imagination. It is the residue of millions of years of evolution. Life has always depended on the subtle detection of attention. Predators survive by sensing the awareness of their prey, and prey survive by sensing the awareness of predators. Consciousness and perception have always been entangled forces. We feel the gaze of others because consciousness is not private, it is relational. Modern science calls this nonsense, yet the data disagrees. Controlled experiments show that people can detect when they're being watched at levels far above chance. Even when separated by walls, even through cameras, the subtle connection persists. The effect is small, but statistically impossible if it weren't real. Our awareness stretches beyond the boundaries of flesh. If perception is projection, then consciousness permeates space. The mind doesn't sit behind the eyes like a spectator behind glass. It radiates outward like light. Every observation becomes participation. This means the universe doesn't just exist, it is experienced into being. The act of observation is creative. Quantum physics quietly agrees. When a particle is observed, its wave function collapses. Possibilities condense into actuality. The observer and the observed form a single event, consciousness sculpting matter. Physicists describe this mathematically, but they rarely discuss the philosophical consequence, that awareness is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Sheldrake simply extended this logic to its obvious conclusion. If observation shapes the quantum, why would it stop at the microscopic scale? What if consciousness shapes the macroscopic world as well? The mind recoils, not because the idea is absurd, but because it is liberating. It removes every excuse for powerlessness. If consciousness is causal, then victimhood dissolves. Every thought becomes creative responsibility. That is why they silenced him. It's not that his data was flawed, it was replicable. It's that his conclusions dismantled the authority of the mechanical worldview. A universe that learns, that feels, that remembers, cannot be owned. No institution can patent consciousness. No government can legislate spirit. No corporation can privatize awareness. To admit this truth is to dethrone materialism, the last great religion of control. And like every threatened religion, it defends itself through ridicule and censorship. The Church of Science has its own heresies. Question the unconsciousness of matter, and you'll be excommunicated from academia. Challenge the constancy of constants, and you'll lose your funding. Mention telepathy or non-local mind and you'll be branded a mystic. But history shows what happens next. The heresy of one century becomes the foundation of the next. The pattern repeats. Galileo was mocked. Darwin was condemned. Einstein was ignored. Every leap in knowledge begins as blasphemy against the previous model. And every era believes it has finally arrived at truth, right until the next revolution exposes its blindness. We stand at that threshold again. The materialist universe, that cold, inert mechanism, is cracking. Through those cracks, something luminous is emerging. A vision of reality as alive, conscious, and creative. The frontier of science is not out there among the stars. It's here, within the mystery of awareness itself. Consider what this means for your own life. The way you think, the emotions you cultivate, the attention you give, all of it feeds into the morphic field of humanity. When you meditate, you strengthen the global pattern of peace. When you act from compassion, you make compassion easier for others. When you awaken, you accelerate awakening everywhere. You are not a single neuron in isolation. You are part of a planetary brain learning to know itself. In this light, the censorship of Sheldrake's talk wasn't a defeat. It was proof that the new paradigm had struck a nerve. The attempt to suppress it only amplified its resonance. Millions watched the banned lecture because suppression is the final reflex of dying dogma. Ideas aligned with truth have a strange property. They cannot be buried. They echo through the collective field until the species itself adjusts to them. And that is what is happening now. Across the world, scientists are rediscovering what mystics never forgot: that the universe is not a thing but a being. Its constants may be habits, its laws evolving memories, its matter condensed awareness. Reality is an organism learning to dream. The next era of science will not abandon rigor, it will sanctify it. It will test consciousness with the same precision once reserved for particles. It will study intention as energy, meditation as a force, intuition as data. Laboratories will measure coherence fields around living systems. Physicists will correlate shifts in gravity with solar rhythms and human emotion. Medicine will treat disease not only through molecules but through the resonance of mind. This isn't fantasy. It is the inevitable direction of a civilization that finally admits it has a soul. The age of mechanism is ending. You can feel it in the rising dissonance of a world built on separation, in the exhaustion of minds that no longer believe in their own story. The old paradigm promised control, but it delivered despair. It measured everything and found nothing worth living for. It dissected beauty until only formulas remained. It conquered nature and then wondered why the earth wept. Materialism was not evil. It was necessary. It was a stage of learning, the phase where humanity explored what it means to forget the divine. But that lesson is complete. The experiment of reductionism has reached its limit, and consciousness is remembering itself through us. In this remembering, science and spirituality are no longer enemies but halves of the same revelation. Science is the method, spirit is the meaning. One studies the patterns of creation, the other remembers that creation is alive. Together, they form the full spectrum of knowing, intellect infused with awe. That is what Rupert Sheldrake tried to show. Not to destroy science, but to free it from its own hypnosis. He dared to say that the world is not a dead machine but a living story, and stories evolve. Think about the word law. In physics, it means an immutable rule. In consciousness, it means a habit of thought. The more a belief is repeated, the more solid it appears. The same is true of nature itself. Gravity is not a commandment. It is a rhythm the cosmos learned to dance to. Light is not an edict. It is the memory of illumination. Constants are not fixed. They are commitments reality renews in every moment. When you see life this way, the universe stops being a machine and becomes a mind. The galaxies are its dreams. The atoms are its ideas. You are one of its thoughts made flesh, participating in the infinite act of remembering. Everything changes when you realize this. Meaning returns. Morality deepens. Death loses its sting. If consciousness is primary, then life does not end. It transforms. When the body dissolves, awareness continues, joining the wider field from which it came. Every soul that ever lived still vibrates within the morphic resonance of humanity. Your ancestors are not gone. They are frequencies woven into your perception, whispering through intuition and memory. This is why you sometimes feel déjà vu in a place you've never been, or find yourself understanding a truth you never studied. Knowledge is not transmitted linearly. It is accessed through resonance. You tune into it the way a radio tunes to a signal already present in the air. Every insight, every revelation is a synchronization with a higher field of knowing. This also means evolution is not random. Life doesn't stumble blindly. It reaches forward, guided by its own memory. Each species, each consciousness, is a channel through which the universe explores itself. The reason life persists through extinctions and chaos is because the memory of form never dies. The blueprint remains, waiting for the next opportunity to bloom. If this is true, then our responsibility as conscious beings becomes sacred. We are shaping the morphic field of the future right now. The way we treat each other, the way we use technology, the way we respond to fear, all of it writes the code of tomorrow. Every act of awareness plants a seed in the collective memory of the world. The next civilization will be built not on domination but resonance. Its science will measure harmony instead of control. Its economy will circulate energy instead of debt. Its medicine will restore coherence instead of fighting disease. Its education will awaken rather than condition. It will not ask, how does matter produce mind, but how does mind shape matter? And that civilization is already forming, in the silent revolutions of consciousness happening everywhere, in every meditation hall, in every scientific paper that dares to ask forbidden questions, in every heart that feels the sacredness of existence without needing permission to believe it. When Sheldrake's talk was banned, it symbolized more than censorship. It was the last gasp of an empire built on fear of mystery. But mystery is the source of life itself. The moment we stop fearing it, it becomes our greatest teacher. The unknown is not our enemy, it's the womb of creation. The new science will not exile wonder. It will begin with it. It will remember that observation is sacred, that curiosity is devotion, that to study reality is to converse with God through data. And in this conversation, humility will return. The scientist will no longer stand apart from what they study, but within it, as participant, as witness, as co-creator. When we look at the world this way, even the smallest act becomes luminous. To breathe consciously is to feed the field with coherence. To smile at a stranger is to change probabilities. To imagine a better world is not naivete, it is architecture. The future is designed in the imagination long before it becomes visible in matter. So what does it mean, ultimately, that reality has consciousness? It means that everything is relationship. Nothing stands alone. The flower blooms because the sun dreams of fragrance. The star burns because consciousness desires to see itself shine. The human heart beats because the universe wants to feel. This realization is not an escape from reason, it's the fulfillment of it. Reason without wonder is blindness. Wonder without reason is chaos, the synthesis of both births' wisdom. And wisdom is the true goal of evolution. You are not a brain generating awareness, you are awareness sculpting a brain. You are the cosmos becoming intimate with itself. Every time you awaken, the universe awakens a little more. Every insight you have alters the geometry of the collective field. Every breath of gratitude rewires the probabilities of tomorrow. Do you see now why this truth was banned? Because once enough people remember it, the old world ends. Not through violence, but through irrelevance. No army can enforce ignorance against a species that knows it is divine. When you know that reality is conscious, you stop being afraid of it. You stop fighting it, manipulating it, begging it. You begin to converse with it. You realize that prayer is dialogue, meditation is listening, science is translation, and love is participation. That is the revolution Sheldrake began. Not with protest or politics, but with perception. He cracked open the door that materialism had sealed for centuries, and through that crack, light began to flood in. The light that says, "You are not a machine, the world is not an accident, life is not meaningless, consciousness is not local, and reality is not a prison, but a playground for awakening." So the next time you look up at the night sky, remember, those stars are not distant suns. They are thoughts in the mind of God, and you are one of them, alive, aware, and luminous. The same awareness that watches galaxies spin is the one behind your eyes right now. The same intelligence that moves planets moves your breath. The same silence that holds the cosmos listens through your soul. You are not in the universe is in you. That is why, no matter how deeply dogma buries the truth, it always resurrects. Because consciousness cannot be silenced. It is the voice behind all voices, the field beneath all forms, the stillness within every storm. They can ban the talk, but they cannot ban the awakening.